I don't know what his specific role was and then what went wrong, basically.
This is just lawsuit part 1.
Yeah.
Wait until
Wait until
the final
yeah, the
lawsuit.
final lawsuit.
Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023. We're your hosts. Say hello.
Hello.
That's for the audio listeners. And we talk about movies from 2023 because 2023 was kind of a weird year for movies.
Mm-hmm.
80 for Brady, 65, Cocaine Bear, Strays, Oppenheimer,
Megan.
Barbie,
Linoleum.
etc.
They clone Tyrone.
There was a strike or two or one.
These two, yeah.
And so that's why we talk about it. And apparently AMC movie theaters has started doing a recap.
A 2023 recap because
Yeah.
of the new Megan movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's catching on.
So it's not just us.
Sponsor us, AMC.
If you like this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon, reviewing and rating wherever you listen to your podcasts, and or following us on Instagram and subscribing on YouTube.
All that fun stuff.
All of that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say wherever you listen to your podcast, probably not wherever anymore because we're switching hosting platforms.
It's the main ones.
The main ones.
Wherever you get your podcast, as long as it's one of the main ones.
Yeah, don't be one of those weird people who use like castpod.com or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, don't be one of those weird viewers.
Don't be a cast head.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1.
That's right, it's part 1.
Yeah,
There was a part 2.
allegedly.
It was called
Something else. So, Ethan Hunt and his IMF team must track down a dangerous weapon before it falls into the wrong hands. Pretty short and sweet for a 7th installment in a franchise.
Yeah.
What were your first impressions when you heard about this movie, and what are your thoughts on Mission Impossible?
My first impressions were cool. They're finally ending it. However, my thoughts on Mission Impossible, I like the franchise.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun franchise. There's bad ones, for sure, but there's also good ones.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I thought he's still at it. I had never seen a Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
I had seen like the clip, of the first one where he's on the wire and he almost touches the floor and then he doesn't touch the floor. And
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It is very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew of it because, he is Mr. Stuntman, basically.
Yeah.
So when I first tried to watch this movie, I tried to just watch this one, the 2023 one. And I got about 10 minutes in and I was like, this is not the way to watch this movie. And I can recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped and I watched the very first one. Pretty good. I get it.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. It's like, it's got enough going on in it that I'm like, oh, I understand why, like, it is the spy movie. And I get why people are into this franchise. And then I watched this one, had a little more context for things. I wasn't going to watch all of them before this one.
Sure. We'll watch them now.
Yeah, I'll watch them now. But if I did it for this, then we would also have to do it for the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Oh, there's no way I'm ever watching any other Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
There's no chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're good. Mission Impossible 2 is not good.
Mm-hmm.
Come at me. Get in those comments.
Tom Cruise.
3 is good. They introduced Simon Pegg's character.
Mm.
I believe 4 is the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Gotcha.
And so that's good.
He's nice.
I didn't remember originally that the one line was from that movie. It's just a line that I know that I've heard many times before. like impersonated or whatever, and it's his line of "I'm gonna find her, and I'm gonna hurt her."
Oh, yeah.
Like that, I
Yes.
know I've heard elsewhere.
I have heard you do that, yeah.
Uh, and that's from Mission Impossible.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, I don't like the Henry Cavill one.
Which one is that? Oh, is that when he like reloads his arms?
Yes,
Okay.
so him reloading his arms in the trailer,
Mm-hmm.
best part of that movie in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Um, I think I rewatched all of the Mission Impossibles in preparation for that one,
Mm-hmm.
whenever that one was.
Not 2023.
No.
That's all I can tell you.
And yeah, didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I also I didn't see that one in theaters, and so it kept changing aspect ratios
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I don't appreciate. Because you can get away with it in certain scenarios.
Yeah.
Like in Marvel movies, big action sequences will be the bigger aspect ratio,
Mm-hmm.
and then when it's more of just like their dialogue or planning, it goes into like the widescreen or whatever, 2.39. But with that one, when I watched it, it went from like super tall aspect ratio when he's doing a helicopter stunt
Mm-hmm.
to 2.39 back to wide. Like it just kept going, like when it was showing like him doing his thing and then the context of other people doing their thing.
Oh,
And it was just too jarring.
gotcha.
Did not like it. And that's not the biggest problem. Like I just also didn't really.
Didn't like it, and also aspect ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
But let's talk about this
Yeah.
one.
So the trailer for this movie, pretty straightforward, pretty punchy, got a lot of stuff going on. There's dramatic narration about like we're the sum of our choices, etc. So it's got all the action sequences. It's mostly a montage showing previous characters have returned for this movie, and it currently has 32 million views on YouTube from Paramount Pictures. Makes sense.
Yeah.
People like this successful franchise.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The cast?
Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. Haley Atwell as Grace.
Just Grace.
Ving Rhames as Luther Stickwell. Simon Pegg as Benji Dunn. Rebecca Ferguson as Ilsa Faust. Vanessa Kirby as the White Widow. Isai Morales as Gabriel. Palm Clementif as Paris. Frederick Schmidt as Zola. Henry Czerny as Kittredge. Shia Wiggum as Briggs. Greg Tarzan Davis as Dagus. Carrie Ellis as Dinlinger.
Mm-hmm.
Dinlinger. Other cast includes Mariella Garriga,
Mm-hmm.
Charles Parnell, Mark Gatiss, Indira Varma, Rob Delaney. So very briefly.
So very briefly, yeah. Everyone from the other cast list, except for Mariella, they're basically just in that one press or security briefing scene. But it was like, oh, I know all these people.
Yeah.
Okay, goodbye.
A bunch of them do come back for... Because I watched Final Reckoning.
Okay.
A bunch of the people do come back in Final Reckoning.
I
believe Rob Delaney's character, from what I can just assume,
yeah.
he was supposed to come back, didn't get him, and then they got a new character played by Nick Offerman.
Okay, so the way that they are credited on IMDb is just with the organization that they're with.
Yeah.
So Rob Delaney is JSOC. So I guess they just had a different representative. Yeah, and then Mark Gatiss is NSA. It's just like there's Mr. Sherlock's brother.
Yeah, Mark Gatiss also going to be in the new Fantastic Four movie.
Ah, as Sherlock's brother?
No.
Cool. So, yeah, I did plot summary. I started doing it myself because I was reading the Wikipedia summary and I was like, I feel like information was revealed in a different way than Wikipedia is doing it. So,
Yeah, this will be tricky for me because I've seen Final Reckoning.
yeah.
So I have to differentiate
So no spoilers.
which movie is which movie, because I think technically in universe they take place 2 months apart, so it's pretty back to back.
I'm also, okay, the branding of this is, I have just enough context to get confused about. So, so we're talking about Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Uh-huh.
There was what was part 2,
It's
which
called Final Reckoning.
Final Reckoning.
Uh-huh.
And then there's another one, or is just
No.
those two?
Final Reckoning is the one that's in theaters right now.
Great. Gotcha. Cool. Okay.
There's no part 2.
Yeah.
There's just a final. There's a
Yeah.
part 1 and a final.
Easy.
It's like the Bible. There's the Old Testament and the Final Testament.
That's what they call it, yeah. Okay, so a Russian stealth submarine, the Sevastopol, is on a test mission. There are 2 crew members that form one cruciform key with their 2 key pieces. Like they slot together and then it makes like a cruciform. And then they turn on a machine that allows them to stay undetected from nearby enemies, which this is also related to AI somehow.
It's all AI.
It's all AI. So while on their test run, an enemy sub appears on their radar. It appears aggressive, like it's going to fire on them, so then they fire. There's a glitch in the system, and then the enemy disappears from their radar, and then they can't disable the missiles they fired, which turn around and it destroys the Sevastopol, and all of their bodies float up under an ice layer, and it's, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Russian stealth team. Various world powers want the 2 key pieces. I forget exactly how they found out that they existed, but there are 2.
How they found the keys?
How they knew that the keys existed.
I think a lot of it was just government intelligence.
Yeah.
They know more than they say.
Yeah.
And then the keys were found by Inuit fishermen.
Yeah. So various world powers want the 2 key pieces. It's unclear to most people in power what the keys actually unlock. They just know that other governments are looking for it, so then they have to go for it. One of the people sent to recover the keys is IMF agent Ethan Hunt. He gets information that sends him to the Arabian Desert, where he's told disgraced MI6 agent Ilsa Faust has found half of the keys. Ethan is the only man that Ilsa can trust, because there's a bounty on her head and people are trying to kill her for the key, and then Ilsa dies during a gunfight.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
She is from other movies.
Yeah. There's a meeting with various U.S. intelligence officials briefing the Director of National Intelligence, his character's Denlinger, about the situation. They explain the AI system from the Sevastopol has somehow become sentient, sinking the submarine and infiltrating all online systems across the world. It doesn't do anything to the systems, it just clearly leaves marks to show that it could if it wanted to. They can't trust anything online as being the actual truth. It could have been manipulated by the AI. And then Ethan infiltrates this meeting, doing the face mask Mission Impossible thing. He confronts CIA Director Kittredge and learns that Kittredge is the one who put the bounty on Ilsa. Ethan says he wants to kill the AI that they call the Entity because no one should have all of that power. Also, in a flashback around this point, it's revealed that Ethan helped Ilsa fake her death so that the bounty would go away.
And she's alive!
She's alive! And they're friends.
Forever.
Okay, and then the rest of this is from Wikipedia. So, Ethan and his IMF teammates Benji Dunn and Luther Stickwell travel to Abu Dhabi International Airport to intercept the second piece of the key. It is revealed to be a fake, although Ethan encounters Grace, who is a skilled thief who steals the first piece of the key from him, while Luther and Benji disarm a hoax nuclear device. Ethan is pursued by CIA agents, but he spots his old enemy Gabriel, who killed his wife, girlfriend. He killed
somebody.
Yeah. His old enemy Gabriel, who is an entity liaison with ties to his pre-IMF past, and aborts the mission, scattering the team. Grace escapes to Rome and is apprehended, but Ethan rescues her from local authorities, the U.S. agents, and an entity operative named Paris. Grace escapes again, while Ethan rejoins Luther, Benji, and Ilsa. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of skipped over with this. There's a whole 20-minute long car chase where Grace and Ethan are handcuffed together.
It's a very good sequence.
It's a good sequence. The nuclear device is something comes up on their security radar that Benji sees, and then he's like, it might be a bomb, it might not be a bomb, but also we're seeing this from online sources, so we can't tell if it's the entity that's trying to mess with us or not. And then it's a real bomb, but then there's nothing inside.
Yeah.
It's just like they have to answer a bunch of riddles to disarm the bomb, and it just shows that the entity knows everything about them.
Yeah. It's a very touching moment because one of the questions that Benji has to answer is, who do you care about most?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, that is nice.
Yeah. I also don't know if you mentioned, but the U.S. agents are Briggs and Degas, who I don't know what agency they are with, but they are hunting down Ethan because of the whole invading a U.S. intelligence briefing meeting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the older one is like pretty gung-ho about getting Ethan. He's like, he's gotten away too many times.
Yeah.
But not this time.
I assumed he was from other movies, but
No.
he's not?
He's not.
Okay. They really position him as like, he's got a bone to pick with Ethan.
And he does.
But not for movie reasons.
Not for this one.
Okay.
It's resolved in Final Reckoning.
Whoa. It all comes together.
It's almost like it was a part 2. But that's not a thing.
That's not how they...
It's part 1 and final.
Yeah. That's it. So, Ethan and Ilsa follow Grace to Venice and infiltrate a party held by arms dealer Alana Mitstopoulos, the White Widow. In possession of the second piece of the key, Alana hired Grace to steal the first and will sell the completed key to her buyer the next day on the Orient Express. Gabriel proclaims that he will possess the completed key the next day and that either Ilsa or Grace will die. Ethan attempts to dissuade Alana from the sale, allowing Gabriel and Grace to escape. He pursues Grace, but the entity hacks into their communications and impersonates Benji, leading Ethan into a fight with Paris, whom he spares. Gabriel incapacitates Grace and kills Ilsa, devastating Ethan. She's dead for real this time. So it's like... Gabriel's whole thing is that like he just kind of shows up places and he says like, the entity told me that this would happen. Or like the probability of this happening and everything. So he's like, the entity said that by tomorrow, the completed key set will be at my feet, but only if either Grace or Ilsa dies.
Mm-hmm.
And then he leaves, and then the fight breaks out, and Ilsa dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you pick up that Vanessa Kirby's character is the daughter of the character in the first Mission Impossible? Max. The older woman who is...
Oh, that's her daughter?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Vanessa Kirby is also in other Mission Impossible movies.
I knew that she was in another one, just from, like, researching about stuff.
I think she says in... It's either this one or Final Reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, my mom.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it did not get brought up in a way that I processed for this one. So
Interesting.
Neat. Okay, so while preparing for the sale, Luther leaves for an off-grid location to prevent interference from the entity, advising Ethan to spare Gabriel for questioning about the entity. So Luther like announces that he's not going to be in the rest of the movie, basically, and it was a very funny piece of dialogue to me.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, I have to go. This is the end of the line. I can't be with you anymore. Goodbye.
Yeah.
On the train with Paris, Gabriel kills the engine crew and destroys the throttle and brake. He meets with Denlinger, who attempts to form an alliance with the entity, which he reveals was originally an advanced cyber weapon developed by the United States and transferred onto the Sevastopol to sabotage the sub's stealth system. The completed key unlocks a chamber inside the Sevastopol containing the entity's source code, allowing it to be destroyed or controlled. As the secret is known only to Denlinger, Gabriel kills him and tries to kill Paris as the entity had predicted she will betray them after Ethan spared her life. But He kills Denlinger. He's like, "You're sure you're the only one in the world who knows this?" He's like, "Yeah." And then he kills him. And then he just kind of stands there, and Paris is behind him, and he's like, "You will betray me." It's very like biblical.
Yeah.
Where he just like tells her she will betray him and then attacks her.
Yeah.
So then later on she betrays him.
Yeah. I do like this, like how biblical it is, because the entity sort of becomes a deity
Mm-hmm.
to Gabriel.
Mm.
And I am kind of into that, of just like, no, this is the world now.
Yeah.
Our AI overlords.
And it's also like they keep saying that he was specifically chosen for the entity's
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, he's kind of got a evil messiah thing about him, I guess. So disguised as Alana in the face mask thingy, Grace brings the key to Kittredge, revealed to be the buyer, and negotiates a $100 million sale alongside protection for herself, for Grace, not as Alana, but pickpockets the key from Kittredge after canceling the transfer. So she's like, they give her the, like, your mission should you choose to accept it option, so then she becomes part of the IMF. And then this is like her first impossible mission is like, cool, with no training, negotiate $100 million deal.
Yeah. I also really like it because, and there's no judgment at all,
Mm-hmm.
but Haley Atwell and Vanessa Kirby have very different bodies.
They do.
And one simple mask.
That's enough. It's enough. And then
Weren't you taller before?
They even give her contacts, which is like the way that you're supposed to be able to tell the difference between the two of them. So Vanessa Kirby goes into her room and she's like nervous. So at first it's kind of implied that like they've already made the switch and this is Grace. And then she's nervous for the meeting. She goes into her private room. She tells her assistant like, "Don't disturb me before the meeting." And then second Vanessa Kirby comes out with brown eyes and she's got blue eyes, and then fake Vanessa Kirby like takes over and everything. And it's just like, you paid for the mask and you couldn't spring for for the contacts at the last step.
Something that I appreciate about the first one is that when they do like the masks, it's actually Tom Cruise with prosthetics. It's not other actors.
Oh, yes.
And like this one, like they put the masks on and they look so good. They just have the other, like the actual actor play who they're pretending to be.
Yeah.
Which is like fun in a different way, but like.
And then they also have like this little piece of tape that's on the neck that's kind of implied to be like a voice modulator thing.
That's definitely explained in like.
I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kittredge. Okay. So she pickpockets the key from Kittredge after canceling the transfer. She's like running away from Alana's assistant guy, I think. He's got a gun. He's about to kill her, and then
Meanwhile,
Ethan
had been riding his motorcycle, trying to get onto the train.
They were like, well, so the mask machine broke.
Yeah.
So they were like, we only have the mask for Alana. We don't have one for Ethan. They are all clearly hunting Ethan. So the only way that we can get him on the train is if he jumps onto the train at this point where it's going to be slowed down for him to safely do it. Sure, a regular stunt or whatever. And then Gabriel sabotages the train so that it's going as fast as possible and the brakes don't work. So then instead Ethan does the clip that it was
a huge promotional stunt. Yeah.
He rides the motorcycle off of a cliff and then parachutes onto the train.
Yeah.
But he parachutes into the window.
So funny.
I did laugh out loud.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
And I think it's supposed to be funny because these movies do have a sense of humor.
Yes. I couldn't tell if it was like so like there are jokes and stuff in it, and then there's stuff like like when they're doing the car chase sequence and they're handcuffed together and everything, and then they just kind of like swap back and forth, like who's in charge of driving and stuff. Like
At
there's
one point
funny stuff like that.
in that car chase, the car tumbles over and they roll around, and then when they get back on the wheels, they're in the opposite seats, and they're
Yeah.
both like, "What?"
Yeah. So like there's stuff like that, but it's just like Grace is like genuinely afraid. This is her first mission. She's being held up at gunpoint and nothing else is going on. And then Ethan just crashes through the window and into the guy, and then like he's just like, "Hey, let's go." Like something like that.
Yeah, like he just came in, he's like slowly getting up, and then he looks at her and he's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And I think that is supposed to be funny.
I couldn't tell if it was like humor funny or just like this is ridiculous or like over the top funny, because the part that I didn't, or that felt cheesy, was when he said like he parachutes in and then like the wind catches his parachute and like he's about to go out the window again. He gets the bad guy to go away. I think maybe he pushes him out the train. I forget at this point.
Well, so like he's getting up, the bad guy is also starting to get back up.
Yeah.
The wind catches his parachute, and then the wind basically causes Tom Cruise to slam into the guy again.
Yeah.
And then Tom Cruise is like, "Oh."
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, this is clearly supposed to be a funny moment where like it truly was an accident. Like things just are working out.
Yeah, and that, from what I can pick up on, that's kind of a theme with Mission Impossible. It's like
Yes.
the only way that, like, the missions are impossible, they are done by very skilled people, but then the only way that they're really successful is just like luck.
Yes.
So like I get that. when when she's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Because he just like crashed through a window in a speeding train and everything, and then it's very like there's a music change, and he goes, "Are you okay?" And it's just supposed to be like, this man cares about everyone else except for himself.
Yeah.
It's just like, come on.
I like it. I liked it. And that stunt is cool.
The stunt is cool.
The only problem I had with it is just because they showed the stunt so much in promotion.
Yes.
Like I was like, okay, well here it's coming.
Yeah.
It's like in the moment he's like, well, how am I gonna get down there? Like I need somewhere higher. And then the camera starts to slowly pan. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, is it that ramp made out of rocks?
Yeah.
And then like the cliff is shaped so perfectly,
Yeah.
like a ramp, that I'm just like, ah.
It's the ramp made out of rocks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he crashes in. He saves Grace, but then Gabriel acquires the key because it landed at his feet, just like the entity said it would. So fighting Ethan atop the train, Gabriel escapes and detonates a bridge that's ahead of them. They manage to detach the runaway locomotive and save the passengers. Grace and Ethan climb through the falling train cars until they are rescued by Paris, who tells Ethan about the key's connection to the Sevastopol before collapsing. This is in that moment when she betrays him. Grace informs Kittredge of her desire to join the IMF. Ethan flees the wreckage by Speedwing with the completed key, which he pickpocketed from Gabriel during the fight, and then he rendezvous with Benji to continue the mission to find the Sevastopol and destroy the entity.
Yeah.
In Mission Impossible 2 Dead Reckoning. Or no, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2. Just kidding. It's the final one.
It's the final reckoning.
It's the final reckoning.
Yeah. I loved this train sequence.
It's a good train sequence.
Them like surviving by climbing the train cars, it reminded me of the Uncharted video games, because you have to do that in one of the video games.
Yeah.
But it also just cool looking.
Yeah.
And I also just liked the train sequence as a whole, because now that you've seen the first Mission Impossible, it reminded me like a lot of like references to the train sequence in the
There's
first
another
one.
fight. Yeah.
Because there's the fight in the train.
Yeah.
There's the whatever White Widow, the
yeah.
Mitsopolis exchange.
Yeah.
They were doing that, and I don't know. I just liked that it was sort of referencing the beginning.
I do. Yeah. The fighting and stuff is like, or like for as big as the set pieces are, they are still thinking about like physics.
Yeah.
So, they detach the locomotive, and I feel like in other movies it would be like, phew, we did it, and we're not, they would stop like right at where the track blows up or something. But this is like, no, they're speeding still.
Yeah.
So they like made all the passengers go to the very back of the train because the U.S. agents are helping them now because
Ethan was like, if you don't help me, everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
What's more important to you? And then the U.S. agents were like, well, we are still Americans.
we like saving the world and doing nothing else to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everyone is in the back of the train, and then it's just him and Grace, and then it's like the train car is like slowly falling into them, so they are just speeding through all of the cars to try and get back to safety, and like that whole sequence was cool. And then some of the things like holding on to lamps or things like that, and then just things keep breaking because in no way was it designed to hold a human body over gravity. So, yep, cool stuff.
Yeah.
Things that stuck out.
Mm-hmm.
The stunts are obviously impressive, and fight sequences and stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty solid. Pretty cool. Yeah. I feel like we've talked about it already.
Yeah. It's what you would expect out of Mission Impossible.
Yeah. I feel like having, I would say, a solid 15% of context or something for this franchise. It feels like the plot mostly exists to get previous characters back into this movie. Where they're, he's got his core team. They're going to keep showing up in movies. I get that. And then Gabriel, it's like at some point in a franchise you're always going to have like the your past comes back to haunt you thing, and then the arms dealer and stuff like that, where it's just it felt like, because I know I paused this movie a couple of times because it's a long one.
Mm-hmm.
We also watched this separately.
Yeah.
So I would like come out of the room for a bit, and I know I said like it feels like that meme of the Once Upon a Time show where they say like, we've got to get the crystals back from the thing, right, Cinderella? That's what you think. And then Lightning McQueen comes out of the show.
Yeah.
It just felt like there were so many people where they were just like, I know a guy. Let's go to this other country, and here's my friend from 2 movies ago. And it didn't. It didn't have the effect to me that maybe it has for people who care about this franchise.
Yeah, I get that, but I do also feel like the first one also has, like, they introduce Luther and the French guy, like, over halfway through the movie or something. Like,
that at least was like, so you get also, first movie is effective because I knew that, like, I knew Emilio Estevez died, but I didn't know when or anything. I thought it was like, this was a core team through this movie at least, and then they all die. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
and like that was effective. And then Luther and the French guy are introduced as like, well, we've got this new impossible mission to clear Ethan's name. We can't do this alone. Let's look at other disgraced IMF agents. So in that way, it was like, what's our database of people? And then finding them from there. So, I don't know. It felt okay just because they were also like, we don't know who these people are either. Let's work together for the first time.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Also, plot things. I think it's difficult to do this thing knows our every move before we make it in a satisfying way. And I know there is a continuation of this story, but for this one, I don't know, didn't fully satisfy me.
Sure.
So, characters for the women especially felt a little tropey. Just, again, he's the main character, and they are active and everything, but I don't know. Don't learn much about Grace. Ilsa is kind of an established character, I guess, but I don't know.
You really don't learn much about any other character in any movie.
Yeah.
Like, even Benji, he's a smart tech guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what we know about Benji. Luther, I think we know the most about.
Just because he's been there since the beginning?
He's been there since the beginning, and his character, for whatever reason, has always been like the, you got this, brother.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when I went through this thing, you were there for me.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, so we get a little bit of Luther context.
Right.
But, like, and I'm not disagreeing
Mm-hmm.
with how they treat women,
But at least it's equal across the
but
board.
it is pretty equal. Like you said, the U.S. agents in this one.
Yeah. Who are those?
We have no idea who they are
Who
in
do they
this.
work for?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who
Like-
sent you? Yeah. I think the big things that stood out to me were in several fight sequences, women attacked men with their thighs, which is a thing that Bechtel Cast talks about in their podcast. It's just like, if a woman fights a man, then
It's the strongest part of the woman.
it's just always it's always a thing of she's gonna attack him with her legs. And yeah, and then it was like in Ilsa's death fight, then she did it like 2 times back to back, and she's like, come on.
Yeah.
And then Paris, who's played by Palm Clementif, very, very little lines, very little dialogue. That's another trope of just Asian women just standing in the background, not speaking.
Yeah.
So,
She's in the second one.
does she speak?
Yes.
Wow. Representation.
She speaks French.
Whoa. And then just because I watched the first one and then this one, there's some big tone
Huge
shift.
tone shifts that it's just so drastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first one, I would say the first one, despite an action sequence, not an action film.
It's a solid movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a spy film for sure.
The least believable thing to me was what's his face being married.
John Voight?
John Voight being married.
Oh,
to
yeah.
What's her face?
Someone who looks like his real life daughter?
Yeah. And then just no one bringing it up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was, I agree.
Yeah.
I would say the first one was an adventure spy movie
Yes.
that has a really cool action sequence. The train.
Yes.
The going down in the computer room in that white room and not hitting the floor. I don't even consider that an action sequence. That's like a stunt,
Yeah.
but
It's just like, it's got good tension the
Yeah.
entire time.
and I've said this to you many times,
Mm-hmm.
it's John Woo who ruined it all with Mission Impossible 2.
Yes. Which I guess we'll have to watch so that
Yes.
I can confirm or deny.
And then like JJ came in and they made some real good ones, and they've made some real good ones since the first one, but they are all, I would say, drastically different in tone from that first one.
Watching the first one, I was like, oh, I get why Heart of Stone was trying to go for Mission Impossible. Like,
Yeah.
besides the stunts, then like the relationship dynamics and like that central character and everything. I get why you're going for that blueprint. And then this one was like, well, this is just completely different, and it's hard to maintain that emotion over 7 movies, but
Heart of
Yeah.
Stone was trying to make Mission Impossible 6 instead of Mission
Yes.
Impossible 1.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that felt like the least satisfying from the first to 7 was there are things that are revealed in 7 that are unrelated from Ethan's point of view. So in the first one, he finds out like he's been betrayed. There's this massive conspiracy. Like his mentor isn't the person that he thought he was. Like all of this stuff. And then also he's trying to escape all of these government agencies and stuff. There's like a couple of shots where it's like, hey, we're looking for this guy and we know generally he's in this area and he's outsmarting us. But you're staying with him pretty much the entire time and finding out information alongside him. In 7, there's that whole thing where Carrie Ilwis, I never know how to pronounce his name. Elwis, his like national security director character is revealing, he's monologuing to Gabriel about like the U.S. involvement in all of this, and it's all like very important information, and Ethan hasn't even jumped off the cliff yet.
Yeah.
And he's nowhere nearby, and then he's the one who like leaves to the sub afterwards. So it's just like very key mission information that he has no idea about, and that felt unsatisfying. Is like, well, I know it, but this guy doesn't know it, and I imagine that's not addressed in in final.
I think probably they're just trying, because like the first one is a movie about Ethan.
Yeah.
And so like I think they were trying to be like, well, it's not just Ethan. There are other characters. We're trying to flesh out more characters.
But also, if you don't learn anything about the other characters, then like you gotta stick with Ethan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That was just a thing that I was watching it, and I was like, I can't quite put my finger on what the difference is, but I think it's this.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know. Overall, it's a really well-made movie.
Yeah.
So, plenty of impressive stuff going on. Anything else before production facts?
No.
Cool. So it had its world premiere in Rome on June 19th, 2023, and then a theatrical release in the US by Paramount on July 12th, 2023. It had previously been slated for July 2021, November 2021, May 2022, September 2022, and finally July 14th, 2023, and then they moved it up 2 days to July 12th. The May and September 2022 release dates were later given to Top Gun Maverick. So, another cruise franchise. Yeah. It's got a 2-hour and 43-minute runtime, and it's rated PG-13. I had to take breaks while watching it. Could not imagine seeing this in the theater. Like, the big screen aspect, very cool. The runtime, you gotta have a bathroom break built in.
We did Final Reckoning in IMAX.
Yeah.
It was all right.
That's good. It's got a 96% tomato meter and a 94% popcorn meter. It's got an 81 out of 100 from Metacritic and an A from CinemaScore. So pretty much everyone across the board loves this movie. The Rotten Tomato consensus says, with world-threatening stakes and epic set pieces to match that massive title, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 proves this is still a franchise you should choose to accept. And then all the reviews praise the action sequences and say it deserves to be watched in theaters. There's pretty much just one review snippet that I saw that said, it's great, just don't think too hard about it.
Yeah,
So
that's what
yeah.
this movie is.
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense for an action franchise.
Yeah.
It had a budget of $291 million, which is a lot of
big
money.
I'm sure it made all of it back.
Well, so
I'm sure it made all of it back.
the box office, it earned $571.1 million, which is, again, a lot of money.
That made money.
So, $172.6 million of that is from the U.S. and Canada, and $398.5 is from other territories. Despite these numbers, it was still considered a box office disappointment.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, Variety estimated that Paramount would lose $100 million unless the film passed the $600 million mark worldwide because of production costs, promotional costs, and then all of the COVID delays that this movie had while it was being produced. It was originally projected to earn $90 million in the first 5 days. It earned $78.5 million. That estimation of $90 million was later lowered to like 60 something. So, it landed in the middle. It's the second lowest grossing movie in the franchise behind 2006 Mission Impossible 3, which earned $134 million.
It's not a slight on Mission Impossible 3. That is a slight on Mission Impossible 2 because the first one was great and everyone loved it, and the second one came out and they were like, oh, God. And then the third one came out and they're like, well, we're not going to watch it if that's how 2 was. And then it was good. It was.
It was good. And then for streaming, it was on Netflix a year after the theatrical release, and it ranked third on their global chart, behind number 2, Four Brothers, and number 1, Hitman, with Glenn Powell.
Oh, the Glenn Powell one.
Yeah.
People really liked that.
Really?
People really liked it.
Didn't see it.
I think they just liked it for all the sex.
Whoa.
Personally. I think they liked it for seeing Glenn Powell and I don't remember her name. She's in Andor.
Oh, yeah.
have sex,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing Glenn Powell play a bunch of goofy little characters.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual movie
Yeah,
is fine, I guess.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. These numbers are big. They're impressive, but also this movie costs a lot. So,
Hmm.
I want to say it probably at least broke even. And at this point, with just like the franchise as a whole, it's made money. I just don't know if like the individual movie has made
Yeah.
money. So, yeah. The production timeline for this movie. So, it's the seventh in the Mission Impossible franchise, like we mentioned. So on January 14th, 2019, Tom Cruise announces that the seventh and eighth Mission Impossible movies will be filmed back to back, both written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie. This was later changed due to the pandemic shifting release schedules for Mission Impossible and Top Gun, so they were not filmed back to back. February through December of 2019, various cast members are announced, including Rebecca Ferguson, Haley Atwell, Pom Klementieff, both for the seventh and eighth films, and Simon Pegg, etc. January 2020, Nicholas Hoult is cast in a role. He was cast after Tom Cruise was impressed with his audition for Rooster in Top Gun Maverick, but felt like he liked Nicholas Hoult. He just thought he wasn't good for the role of Rooster. And then they did not have a concrete plot for Mission Impossible 7 at the time that new people were being added to the cast. They just had a general vibe, and he liked Nicholas Hoult, so he wanted him in the movie.
I wonder who he would have been.
I have that. February 20th, 2020, filming is scheduled to begin in Venice, Italy. They were scheduled to stay for 3 weeks before moving to Rome for 40 days. Italy was, of course, hit hard by the pandemic, and then production was halted. March of 2020, stunt rehearsals begin in Surrey, England, just before another hiatus. May of 2020, S.A. Morales replaces Nicholas Hoult as Gabriel due to scheduling conflicts for the pandemic. They had Holt just in a villain role, but that's about it. And then they came up with the concept of the entity after Holt left, and then they decided to tie Ethan and Gabriel's characters together since the recasting of the actors put them closer in age, and they figured that they could have like their paths intersect more.
Gotcha.
So I know very little about Gabriel killing Melissa.
Yeah, then I don't know either if
Yeah.
this is like a new character.
Okay. They
I
they
don't
kept saying how
recall.
significant it was that this woman died.
Yeah, I don't recall Gabriel at all, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
So
I think they were saying like she was someone who died, and then that was like part of his motivation to join the IMF, and that Gabriel was the one that killed her. I don't know.
sure.
Yeah. The director also had the idea to make that as a fully like de-aged sequence where they have all the actors play themselves and everything, but then also shoot it in the style of an 80s movie to make it seem like it came out at that same time. Would have been cool, but also de-aging can be distracting, so
Yeah.
they decided to
And
not
would
do
they
it.
have shifted his tooth back?
If they were going to be realistic, then they should have. July 6, 2020, after another hiatus, the crew is allowed to begin filming in the UK without the mandatory 14-day quarantine. Further filming delays were caused by a massive fire from a motorcycle stunt gone wrong. It's one of the most expensive stunts ever filmed. I believe this was testing for the motorcycle jumping off the cliff thing. September 6th of 2020, filming actually begins in Norway, and then the first thing that they filmed, or one of the first things that they filmed, was Cruz and Morales fighting on top of the train. October 6 or 26, 2020, filming is halted again in Italy as 12 people on set tested positive for COVID. They resumed a week later. December of 2020, filming continues in London on sound stages. February 2021, filming concludes in the Middle East, and then they return for London for, quote, small finishing touches. Those small finishing touches were April 2021. They were filming in New Yorkshire. They used it for the Alps sequence, and that was the train going 60 miles an hour towards a bridge being blown up. August of 2021, they were filming in Birmingham's Grand Central Shopping Center. That was part of the big airport chase sequences. So, like, pretty key stuff. They were like, our final touches of blowing up a train. And then September 2021, principal photography finally ends. They traveled all over the world at a time where it was very difficult to do so. So
I'll say it doesn't, like, nothing in this movie felt like it was...
it doesn't feel like a pandemic movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that clip of Tom Cruise yelling at the crew.
I've got that later too, yeah. Yep. Okay, the awards for this movie. It's got 18 wins and 67 nominations listed on IMDb. The 2024 Academy Award nominees for Best Sound and Best Achievement in Visual Effects. 2024 BAFTA nominees for Best Sound and Visual Effects. It's got 2024 Saturn Awards, 3 nominations and 1 win for Best Action/Adventure Film. The 2024 Golden Globes nominee for Cinematic and Box Office Achievement. I guess because it's another huge movie, even though it was considered a, quote, disappointment, that's still, like, insane numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, 2024 SAG Award winners for Best Stunts for the entire team. There's lots of recognition for the sound design and the stunts. Sound design is very impressive with just all of the driving sequence especially. That was something that I noticed was just so much going on. Yeah. And then it also has the 2024 nominee from the Alliance of Women Film Journalists for the most egregious lovers age difference. They lost that nomination to Cillian Murphy and Florence Pugh for Oppenheimer. But
were they saying Tom Cruise and Haley Atwell?
Yeah, which they're not lovers.
They're not lovers, and it was 14 or 15 years.
It was 20 years.
20?
It was, yeah.
Oh.
But, like, he's 60 and she's 40 or something, so it's not an insane difference. And it's the same difference for Cillian Murphy and Florence Pugh, except that their characters are, like, 27 and whatever. So, it's like, they're not lovers. This was a thing I did mention after watching it. It was like, for, like, as action hero man as Ethan Hunt, the character is, at least in this movie especially, they're just, like, no love connections whatsoever. Like, you're not supposed to, like, it felt like the framing of him was like, you're not supposed to thirst after this man.
Oh, yeah, he has very platonic relationships, which I actually like.
I don't mind it.
I do feel like he is like, no, this is my team.
Yeah.
Just because they're women doesn't mean I view them as not, or like anything else. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just...
Yeah. I will, for, like, as iffy as I was about, like, the thigh attacks and stuff, then the fight sequences otherwise are, like, they don't really care if it's men and women fighting each other or, like, the women and women fighting each other. It's not like that pairing that you typically see. They're just, everyone punches. Yeah. The tagline for this movie, our lives are the sum of our choices. We cannot escape the past.
Okay.
Yep, just kind of the statement they have for most of this, basically. I don't see another one on the poster. I thought maybe they would be like, one final mission or something, but no. So there's, of course, several returning cast members from previous films. Henry Czerny? Czerny? He returns as Kittredge for the first time since Mission Impossible, the 1996 movie. So, did not realize that. Did not realize it was the same man.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Oh.
Because I mean, if it's just like man in a suit in an action movie, I'm really not going to recognize his face. So, you're better at faces than I am anyway.
Also said his name and talked about...
Well, if a giant fish tank also exploded in the scene that he's in, so I was distracted by that.
He's in more than one scene.
I don't know. He's just a guy.
Did you watch these movies?
I mean, unless they're like hello, my name is Mr. Kittredge, and you are Ethan Hunt. Like, they say Ethan's name all the time. I don't... Angela Bassett was also supposed to return to this movie as Erica Sloane, but she was later removed from the project due to pandemic travel restrictions.
She's in final.
Her character's photo is on the wall during the security briefing scene, and I did notice that. I was just like, that's Angela Bassett in the background. I wonder if she's going to show up.
Glad that you're watching the background and not
I support women.
actually happening on the screen. You know that SNL sketch where it's like, it's Andy Samberg and Bill Hader, and they're like, we're two grandsons, and we're introducing our new thing where we appear on the screen for our grandparents' TV to tell them what's actually happening. And it's like a Law and Order episode, but then like Andy Samberg and Bill Hader are green screened, and they're like, Grandpa, he's the bad guy.
I know that stuff. It's just a random guy.
Looks just older but the same.
It was days in between watching the movies. So this is the first Mission Impossible film in the franchise to be shot digitally.
Interesting.
They used the Sony Cine Alta Venice cameras.
Sure.
And then, like we mentioned, this movie does have the instance of the leaked audio of Tom Cruise yelling at crew members for not following COVID protocols. It was December of 2020 while they were filming in London. Apparently 2 crew members were standing less than 6 feet together, the social distance limit. I don't know if they were like unmasked or something, because there's plenty of footage of people not masked, or like they're also doing stunts and stuff. But like people standing less than 6 feet together. So I don't know if it's just, a difficult day or something that made him blow up.
It's probably a difficult day.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that he said, I don't ever want to see it again, ever. And if you do it, you're fired. And if anyone in this crew does it, that's it. And you too. We are the gold standard. They're back there in Hollywood making movies right now because of us. Because they believe in us and what we're doing. We are creating thousands of jobs. You mother effers. I don't ever want to see it again. So he felt pretty strongly about it. And then the response from both the public and other celebrities was generally supportive of Cruise. It's just like, yeah, maybe don't lose your cool on set, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
His execution was wrong, but
Yeah.
I think the sentiment was probably correct and also true. Like,
Yeah.
it's wild what this did for bringing Hollywood back, and
So-
what Tom Cruise has.
Yeah. So I'm not a Cruise head.
No.
I've read too much about Scientology
Yeah,
to be a fan.
Yeah.
This is the closest I've gotten to like drinking the Cruise Kool-Aid, basically.
I think there's
It's
a good
just-
person inside there.
Yeah.
It's just buried beneath the Scientology.
Beneath the
Supposedly he's been distancing himself.
I don't know, you signed that 10,000-year contract and what are you going to do?
He signed it 9,998 years
I
ago.
was so close. Yeah, stuff like, so I didn't realize like how involved he is in this and in movies in general. I feel like if you just see action star man, then you're just like, oh yeah, that's the thing that he does. But learning about like, what exactly goes into he's got an executive producer credit, and it's more than a vanity credit. Basically, he's doing a lot.
Yeah.
So I respect that, and also the timing of this movie was like, they obviously had a lot of difficulties with various hiatuses and stuff, but they came in just under the wire for places that they were filming at to basically grandfather them in to keep filming.
Yeah.
And then because they were still filming, that set the precedent for other studios to then be like, well, let's see what they do, and then we can do the same thing. So absolutely a ton of pressure, and like to be at the helm of all of that and everything. Very wild, and I get it. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't yell at people.
I would hope he apologized
Probably.
and gifted.
That cake or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That he gives people all the time. Yeah. Yeah. What a guy. My favorite bullet point that I think maybe written for any of these is bridge controversy.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
So in 2019, the Swiss government refused to authorize any explosions for the sequence of the train going over the bridge in the Alps. Production begins location scouting to find a suitable bridge that they can blow up, and that included the producer Andrew Exner on this team. In November 2019, the Polish State Railways proposes to Exner the use of a 495-foot-long bridge that was built in 1908 on Lake Pilchowiecki, I think. The bridge was officially opened in 1912 by Wilhelm II. It survived World War II pretty much intact, and it was fully functional for trains until 2016 when it was deemed unsafe for public use. So, like, it's an old bridge, but it's also not a monument. And it is falling apart. December of 2019, producers from Paramount and writer-director Christopher McQuarrie land in Poland, accompanied in deep secrecy by officers of the Polish engineering troops. But then also, McQuarrie documented the visit on Instagram. So, and then I'm kind of confused on what exactly happened. But from Wikipedia, it says, despite publicly praising the bridge as, quote, extremely valuable, an expert misrepresented conclusions of a commissioned report that instead of renovating, it would be best to demolish the bridge and build a new one. In March of 2020, after the rejected Exner spread the information, local authorities and museum officials were appalled by the producer's intention to physically destroy the bridge instead of using CGI effects. The filmmakers and government officials said the bridge was intended for demolition. So I think, essentially, the public became outraged that a movie was going to destroy their bridge. And then production insists they weren't going to do any irreparable damage to the bridge, and they were only going to blow up unsafe parts. That feels irreparable to me. And then the bridge is, because of all of this, the bridge is later classified as a monument and cannot be destroyed. And then production used a quarry in England instead for the, like, locomotive crashing into stuff below. That's also, I think, where they did some stunt testing. But I don't know, like, the rejected Exner part. I don't know what they rejected him for. If he was upset, I don't know why he was upset. Basically, if he was upset that they were going to destroy the bridge, but also it was his job to find a bridge to blow up. And then I tried to read more about it, but all of the articles are in Polish, so I don't know that language yet.
So
someday,
that whole plot point in
the franchise,
yes, was about this.
It was about this.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. There's, if you haven't seen it, then there's a part in the franchise where they are going to blow up a bridge. And then they end up blowing up the wrong bridge, and they blew up a monument that's on this country's currency instead. So production never offered to fund construction for a new bridge or to cover renovation costs of the existing bridge, which, like, kind of makes sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like movies pay for weird stuff, but when you're at the point of, like, we'll build you a bridge, I don't know if that is in Paramount's budget.
I do feel like if they were going to destroy the bridge anyway, let them film it.
Yeah. But it was like there were no active plans to destroy the bridge. They were just like, yeah, this one needs to be demolished. And then the public was like, don't blow up our bridge for this movie. I don't know.
All right.
But then May of 2021, Exner sues Paramount, including McQuarrie and Cruise, for breach of contract. It's unclear if he was claiming to have not been paid or if he was just upset because they had to go with another person who could help them find a usable location. I believe the suit has been dropped. Again, most of the articles are in Polish, but he like filed a lawsuit, and then he made a series of tweets where he was like, this is just the beginning. I've got 2 more lawsuits like lined up. And then this was
just let it go.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what his specific role was and then what went wrong, basically.
This is just lawsuit part 1.
Yeah.
Wait until part the final lawsuit.
The final lawsuit. And then, just like this movie, there was only part 1. Yep. So that's some fun bridge controversy. more movies should have bridge controversy. Speaking of lawsuits, the production team also sued their insurance company for refusing to pay out policies after the film was shut down multiple times due to the pandemic. The insurance company claimed that there was no evidence that the personnel could not continue to perform their duties despite testing positive for COVID.
Jeez.
That's fun. The insurer was apparently trying to limit the loss claims amount to $1 million, while Paramount claimed it was closer to $100 million in loss of, like, you know, wages and everything. And then the dispute was settled out of court, and Paramount was awarded around $70 million. So that's more than one. Wild stuff. And then stunts for this movie, obviously very impressive. Tom Cruise does everything, including planning the stunt execution. Like, he was the one, at least in the promotional material that I saw, he was the one who was coordinating stuff with different people. So the first thing that they shot for the movie was the riding the motorcycle off a cliff, like the stunt. He trained for months, over 500 skydives and 13,000 motocross jumps, because he had to get comfortable, like, controlling the chute and knowing how to control the bike and when to jump off. The bike doesn't have a speedometer, so he had to feel it by what the bike felt like and the sound that it was making to tell if he was going at the right speed. Engineers built the ramp in Norway over a series of months, and everything had to be brought in by helicopter because of their location. They also had to plan where the cameras were going to be in relation to the jump, so they built a replica ramp in that quarry in the UK, and then they had data from that on, like, his average jump height and distance, so they knew where to place the cameras so that they could get the right angles. So they shot the actual stunt 6 times in one day.
It's more than I would expect.
Yeah. So the Paramount on YouTube has a video of, like, interviewing different people, talking about the stunt process and everything. It's about a 9-minute long video, I think. And it shows, like, some of his training, people talking about, like, you tell him something and it just clicks, and then he just can easily replicate it every single time and stuff. They did over 30 skydives in a day as part of his training. And it was him and a camera operator, like, jumping out of the plane every single time.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a fun day for that guy. Yeah, but they show, like, all of that build up and everything. They show the jump. The director is, like, losing his mind, and because, you know, it's very stressful and you don't want to kill Tom Cruise, and then the chute pulls and everyone is applauding and everything. And then he lands and they're, like, talking and walkie-talkie, and he's like, it's beautiful, it's perfect, nothing went wrong, like, it's great, we got it. And he's like, that's awesome, I think I can hold onto the bike for a little longer. And so they do it again, and he, just because he's like, let's get it, so they did it 6 times. Very cool, get it. And then part of that promotional material, then they called it the biggest stunt in cinema history. I don't know how you judge that.
I don't either.
I also don't know if it's true because of the final reckoning and the stunts that he did in that. If, like,
I don't know.
That's bigger.
It's hard because, like, some just look cooler to me.
Yeah.
So
True. This was impressive because of the coordination. Like, it was like, step 1, make sure you jump out of plane correctly. Step 2, do motocross correctly. Step 3, where do camera go? And, like...
Yeah. I'll say, like, what he did for Final Reckoning with all, like, the airplane stunts.
Yeah.
He was just tied to the airplane, and I watched an interview where he couldn't wear a parachute because it would get in the way. So, that's impressive. But
yeah. So, fun stuff. Yeah. A final thing, future installments. So Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning was released May 23rd, 2025. The Dead Reckoning Part 2 subtitle was removed October of 2023. So pretty soon after this movie came out, they're like, let's get that out of here.
Yeah.
Previous announcements stated that Dead Reckoning would be a send-off to Ethan Hunt. And And then McQuarrie and Cruise have both expressed interest in continuing the series. So there's also been like cast posts on social media that I keep seeing, like from Simon Pegg and people who are just like, end of an era. Been a beautiful experience. Can't believe I've been part of this, and like, it's very final.
Yeah.
So it seems like the franchise is ending, at least with that core group. There's a possibility for a spin-off. I imagine it would be more with like the IMF as an organization.
Yeah.
So
They left it open.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. That was the other thing, is they were going to have a post-credits scene in Final Reckoning, and then McQuarrie cut it. And then when someone asked him about it, he was like, I can't reveal what was in it because we might use it it might come up in another movie. So that kind of implies
they should stop
something. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, if you call it Final Reckoning, I feel like you gotta just let it
happy
go.
for them to reboot,
Yeah.
but Cruise. go do your sequel to Edge of Tomorrow that you've been talking about doing for years, and then
I do like that movie.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was hoping you would say Interview with a Vampire. Get back to your true core.
Let's bring Jerry Maguire back.
Yeah. So yeah, that's absolutely everything that I have. The good part about doing franchise movies is you can find so much information about them.
True.
Yep. Should we get to our rating?
Yeah. 0 out of 4 is oh no. 1 out of 4 is it was a movie. 2 out of 4 is well made or enjoyable. 3 is enjoyable and technically good. 4 is Oscar worthy. I gave it a 3 because it was made really well and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What do you give it?
I gave it a 2.
Sure.
Purely because I don't have enough context for the franchise to judge it on like the actual content, but it is really well made, and I appreciate all of that.
Yeah.
290 whatever million dollars that went into it. It shows.
But I wanted to compare with someone who also hadn't seen any of the other movies but had seen this one for
Just
whatever
this
reason.
one.
Sean, friend of the channel.
Friend of the pod.
Part of the channel. He's right there. When he had seen this movie, was the only Mission Impossible that he had seen.
And you guys watched it because of the one that's coming out, right? Or is out?
Well, I watched it.
Yeah.
For this podcast and in preparation for Final Reckoning.
Right.
Sean had already seen Dead Reckoning Part 1 in IMAX when it came out.
Okay.
Not having seen any of the others.
It's just an IMAX experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he gave it a 4.
Right.
So he loved the movie.
Yeah.
So
do with that what you will.
Whatever that means to you.
Do we want to include him in our average?
I think we will.
Yeah.
So that's whoa, no. 9 divided by 3.
3.
3.
Yeah.
It's 3 out of 4.
It's 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Awesome. That feels right.
Yeah. Other movies that we've seen recently. Well, I saw Final Reckoning, but we watched The Accountant 2.
We sure did.
And I gotta say, big disappointment.
Talk about
tone shift.
Tone shift.
Yeah.
This is a different man.
It truly is not the same accountant.
Yeah.
It is a caricature of the previous accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay. So the first one, I could look up what year it came out, but it's
2015 or something.
Yeah. So Ben Affleck's character clearly on the spectrum. I don't know if they give him a specific diagnosis. It doesn't matter. But like, for being like clearly a little bit out of touch with what the realities of that look like, they were pretty, I would say, respectful of it, and they also showed that like it truly is a spectrum, and they show him at that special like institution, and there's various people that like are nonverbal, are like stimming a lot and everything, and they're showing, and then they're revealed as like very capable people, and he identifies with them very strongly. He's like, this is my community. In this one, I didn't get that same vibe. One, because they recast his assistant person, and she's like much more Hollywood attractive. And then they had all of the kids that were in this.
Oh my god. Truly one of the worst things that they've done in movies.
Here's our army of child hackers.
Yeah, there was a team of children on the spectrum who were also really good at hacking and hacking into government facilities and all of this stuff. And then like the kids were competing with each other to be like, who can figure out who this woman is first?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. She's a killer. She's a assassin.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this kid is 12. Why are you showing it like...
Exactly.
Like
they established in the first one that like he and his brother are the way that they are because of their dad, and they went through all this intense military training, and then like Ben Affleck found this woman who is nonverbal, stims a lot and everything, but they became like really good friends at this institution as kids. Yeah. And then like she is capable of helping him like do all of the tech hacking, like hide your identity stuff, stay under the radar. That was his whole thing. It was like he lives in that Airstream or whatever it's called because like that's all that he wants, and he's staying under the radar. Having an army of child hackers is not going to help you stay under the radar.
He also is like going to speed dating and stuff, and it was like in the first one there was Anna Kendrick, and there was sort of like a maybe it's a love interest thing, but it was still like
it was like at least he is able to find a genuine connection under these wacky circumstances.
Yeah.
And it was more like he's not seeking out romance, but she gets him.
Yeah.
But then also he's being very practical about his lifestyle, and he's like, well, goodbye, because you're a civilian.
It was also called The Accountant because he was actually good at accounting. And they showed that he was like a tax guy, and he helped this struggling old couple with their tax documents. And then instead it's used as a joke in his date. Like they basically are using it to make fun of him, because with every speed dating person that he talks to, he's like, here's a secret that they probably don't tell you. You can actually cross this off on form, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it's just like, why? Yeah. Like, part of the whole thing was that he is a good accountant. And, like, like, yes, he is, like, a killer and good soldier. But, like...
He has a very specific moral code.
A good chunk of the first movie was spent on him, like, actually going through accounting and figuring out...
It's a financial crimes movie.
Yeah.
That they made, like, actually interesting, and it's very hard to do that. And in this one, the most redeeming quality is the relationship with his brother. Like,
yeah. And, like, if you like this movie, that's fine. It just means you are more of a fan of action comedies and not a fan of what the first one was.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But why would you take a franchise that is the one and then turn it into a buddy cop ride-along type of...
I feel like I don't know, for me at least, I saw the trailer of this one and I was like, oh, that's a solid trailer. Like,
yeah,
you know, not a huge Ben Affleck fan, but like, it's an interesting movie. I wonder what the first one is like. And then we watched the first one and we're like, this is really solid. Now I'm like genuinely excited for the second one. And then it was just such a disappointment from the way that the trailer made it and the way that the first one is in comparison.
Small thing in the movie, one of my biggest gripes with the character. The character is a collector of like art and like props. And so in the first one, it shows that he has like one of the real Luke Skywalker lightsabers that they used in Star Wars. Clearly never been touched.
Yeah.
In this one, he's on a phone call with his brother trying to get his brother to come help him, and it shows him in his Airstream like playing with the lightsaber. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, in no world would this character play with the replica lightsaber. There's just no chance. And it was just like that small little thing, like, oh, they don't understand this character anymore.
Yeah. That and the line dancing.
Yeah, he went line dancing, and he'd never gone before, but it's all patterned, so he was able to pick it up instantly. And I'm just like,
they got a girl's phone number because of it was. That's the part where it's just like the respect for like people on the spectrum thing is gone now.
In this one, they treated the spectrum much more like it was a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
And the other one was like, this is who he is, and this is how he.
This is just who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's like, oh, these kids are actually really smart and talented, and so they use their special abilities to hack.
And then the IRS agent woman who is with him, and then like she's seeing these these children hack into like a random woman's computer because she took a selfie at the right time, and they need to see this woman that's in the background of that selfie and everything, and she's just like, tell them to stop, like this is morally wrong, tell them to stop. And then they never address that at all. They're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a different movie.
It's a different movie, but we watched it.
We sure did.
Go ahead and follow us on social media. Leave questions and comments, and we'll respond on our other podcast, the Virtual House Sessions. You can also check out our Patreon for our bonus Patreon members exclusive Year of the Movie podcast episode, where we're going to be talking about Kraven the Hunter.
Ever heard of him?
Because it was supposed to come out in 2023, but the strikes pushed it to 24.
Yeah.
But it just feels so much like the spirit of 2023 that we want to talk about it anyway and put it behind a paywall.
Yeah. We also talked about the Wes Anderson shorts.
The Roald Dahl shorts. That's on Patreon as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.